Today, we've got a special guest, the CEO of WhistlePig. If you're into whiskey, you're going to want to watch this or listen to it. We go through quite a bit of stuff. We got to hear the origin story.
Yeah, a little bit of origin.
Got to talk about your pigs.
These awesome bottles here that we got and the creativity that comes into making a brand. It sounds like it's going good for you and you have a lot of stuff ahead to look forward to.
Always something new coming down the pipe.
Enjoy.
All right.
Going back to that original label, because I do think the packaging, the whole vibe of everything all tying into the pig, it really does. It's amazing. It's beautiful. What was there a competition with that original label, or was that just somebody submitting?
I think we just paid one of the employees, or at that point, we just contracted with a college student for $100, and that was what the label cost was, right? So it was just like a one-off. I mean, this is like
no way. It was $100.
$100. and we to this day we don't know, like we've never found that person. We've asked them occasionally. We try to figure out like who was it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this person, maybe they don't even remember, or just like something that they had done. But yeah, there's some mystery person out there that designed a label for $100 that became a very successful brand. So if they hear this podcast, reach out and we'll make sure we get you, the Boss Hog.
That's super cool.
Right.
Yeah. That is really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I hope they're all right. Maybe graduated from Middlebury and was like, I can't do anything.
Well, it is true. We will have kids come and apply to work at the farm, and I'm like, no, you can't. Like, you got to go get a real job. You can't work on the bottling line. That's too expensive of an education.
That's a good point. All right, so sticking with the packaging talk. So we talked a little bit about this beauty here, but I think you should explain it. So it's your pig shaped bottle. I don't know, what do you guys call this?
It's called the piggy bank.
Piggy bank.
So it was an original. We sourced these bottles that were like Prohibition time, and so it used to be a bottle that held bitters, and it was called the Berkshire Pig. And so these were super collectible bottles. They were like, if you buy them now, they're about $3,000. And so we took this collectible Berkshire Pig bottle, worked with our glass manufacturer to say, hey, can we create a replica of this? And so then we had this huge conversation about like, do you want everything, on the pig, in the new, actually, I guess we'll call it, like a commercial pig, right? We went from a collector pig to a commercial pig that we could actually use in production. They replicated the mold, made it, and then we started selling this piggy bank about 2 years ago. And it kind of likens itself back to, remember Beam used to do a ton of decanters in the 70s? You could have all these collectible decanters, right? Yeah. So this kind of, again, goes back to that time where, this is a collectible, it goes on the shelf, looks great on a bar, it comes in a little box that has it's a piggy bank where you can use later to actually store dollars or coins. And then again, it's just being fun with whiskey space, right? And of course, you drink from the rear. We're proudly,
the Badonkadonk.
And again, it's just something where you're like, all right, like people want personality. They want something that's collectible. So let's give it to them.
Yeah.
So did the original Berkshire Pig bottle, did it have the anatomically correct testicles as this piggy bank does?
It did.
It did.
It did. And this is keeping true to the original form. So yes, there are pig testicles, if that's the correct term.
Do you think they I mean, this is asking for a friend, but do you think there might be ones that come out with like bigger?
I don't know. I think I'll leave that one for marketing.
Because it hold more whiskey.
Yeah, of course. That's right. Right.
That's why that's coming from.
That's right. That's right. That's a 1.4 liter. As opposed to just the 1
for the
liter.
volume, Chris.
Yeah. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So I would like to know, like, so give me the process of like something like that. Somebody sourced or found this decanter. Mm-hmm. And it was somebody in the marketing department?
Somebody in the marketing department. And to be honest, we actually had contemplated selling the single malt scotch in it, which we thought would be super disruptive, right? And then we kind of played around with that for a couple of years, didn't go anywhere. And that's sort of thing, like some idea will come out and then eventually it'll see its light of day. So like there's a million projects. It's not like we're a big company where it's like, all right, there's this like, green light, here's 8 projects that are green lit. I think you just have a lot of ideas if you have a young, small team that just kind of like revolve around. And so, yeah, this eventually came out as a piggy bank, 2 years ago. This year's is solid gold. Looks beautiful.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I just saw it on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I think you're looking at different ways to show up, whether it's in retail or, in on premise, and have fun doing it.
Yeah, it does look beautiful on there too. I was actually going to say, just mentioning Instagram stuff, you guys are also, do you feel like the power of social too now that has come? Does that work out for you guys? Because you guys have a large following. It's like almost like 230,000 on social.
Yeah, we're pretty big in digital. We haven't really got into TikTok. I know TikTok's just starting for alcohol brands, for spirit brands at least. And again, I think our marketing team does a great job, right? And again, the content, I know people love to see beautiful bottles, but you got to have fun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We did a great partnership with Valtteri Bottas and F1 drivers singing karaoke lately. Got like 1 million views. Yeah. I think you're just trying to like give something that's interesting for people, because at the end of the day, a bottle of whiskey in itself is not super interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up the TikTok just starting to crank up with alcohol brands.
Yeah.
That was the reason that we created kind of the personality behind the wine brands.
Yeah.
Because at the time there was no other way to do it. But yeah, I think social media is finally, coming of age in many cases. And it's just a great way to educate people. I don't think it's, catering to a younger demographic or whatever, trying to get people that are 15 to drink.
No.
I think that people are starting to realize that it's a way for people to take in information, and it should be, available to people if they want to get some knowledge dropped on them.
For sure.
Or entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or death scrolling, whatever you want to call it.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah.
What is doom? What's that?
It's just when you're just like locked in, and then you're like, what happened? It's Tuesday, and
Right.
I started scrolling on Sunday.
Yeah.
That kind of shit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, like my 11-year-old daughter.
Correct.
The blogger, it's just cute. He is 11 years old, does blogging, but her videos only get seen by him.
Yeah, she's not allowed to post them.
Okay.
Yeah, like
But
you go ahead and practice. Maybe you'll be able to do it when you get older. But it was like this morning. No, she doesn't even post them
Okay,
online.
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Like,
I thought it was like just you, like watching. You're like,
she'll shoot it, edit
Yeah.
it. I'm like, okay, good. She's learning something, and then
Right.
I keep like telling her like, yeah, when you're whatever 17, 16, then maybe you can start posting things as long as it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like this morning, it took like 20 minutes for her to eat her breakfast. Because she just kept on like. Finally, I just took her phone. I'm like, "Yep,
Right.
you're done."
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it is designed to consume your time, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it sure does. They got that on it. Those algorithms are crazy, right? Just they're always listening too.
That's right. That's right.
And you have kids as well.
I do. I have two 15-year-olds and a 17-year-old. So, and I have the same problem with their phones.
Yeah.
You're in the same camp. Yeah.
It's part of it. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. One is these technologies are going to be available to us and them and their kids and future generations and whatever else. Do you want them to evolve and be more acquainted than we were with them, or do you want to hold them back into kind of a pre-digital society and have them struggle when they become adults?
Yeah, it's a balance. It's a balance.
It is a balance. You don't want them to be consumed by it completely, but you also want them to be able to compete with a workforce in the future that's going to be utilizing and maximizing these technologies.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it is funny though, the algorithms and how much your phones are listening to you. We were just in Las Vegas, and I was just disgusted by the city. I mean, it's a fun city, but
where's this going?
What happened? I told you. Here we go.
No, and so we got into this like deep philosophical conversation about like, I mean, almost like what is going to happen with human society? Are we just going to consume everything? And what so my wife and I were just going a little bit deeper than we usually do, and and so all of a sudden she's getting all of these like ads for like doomsday or shit.
Oh, really? So you're going to become a prepper?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's good to have the conversation, but no, I thought it was hilarious. I was like, oh, that's funny. Like, I don't even think we talked much about it, but it was enough.
Yeah.
I feel that's what people usually talk about in Vegas.
The end of times.
Yeah. They're just at the clubs, fucking bottle service. They're like, are we just consuming ourselves? There'll be nothing left. We don't even talk anymore.
Watch, I'm going to start getting WhistlePig ads all over my phone now after this podcast.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah,
That's the hope.
Yeah. WhistlePig.
You just start walking around.
WhistlePig.
Where do you see this brand going? I mean, you guys continue with innovation. You guys continue with just delivering great product. Sounds like you guys are doing more of the production in-house as time goes on. And is there expansion going on at the distillery?
Unfortunately, we'll always have to source some whiskey just from our size because we're limited. There's a permitting issue in Vermont where we're only allowed to have such a, this size of still, this amount of fermenters, right? We're not on city water, right? So we have to get rid of all of our waste with digesters and, just not feasible to produce everything we can or would like to ourselves. So it'll always be a balancing act. I mean, for what do I see in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, I think we're going to take a bigger swing at bourbon. We're coming out with a 10-year-old bourbon that'll kind of match up with our 10-year rye. Again, it'll be a different spin on it. It'll be very WhistlePig. We're opening a tasting room in Kentucky because we need to touch more consumers. So we bought the First Bank of Louisville, which is a really cool bank down in, right near Nulu, right near Angel's Envy. And so we'll kind of like take the fight to Kentucky, but we know we'll be super disruptive when we're there, the same way we kind of show up in market. I think we're just going to continue to expand our distribution through the U.S. We're still not in a ton of, grocers, retailers that we should be. And so, just continue to build the brand, continue to have fun, kind of push the industry where it makes sense, where we can actually be more disruptive or, bring a different spin to whiskey. Because I think consumers obviously drinking less. There's been a huge explosion in whiskey. I mean, there's way too much production out there right now. I mean, it's pretty interesting times when you think about where your brand is or where your business is versus all the expansion that's happened in the last couple of years. So,
yeah, and it was crazy expansion, and so now, much like the wine industry and much like the beer industry was, do you see that whiskey is in an oversupply situation?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is like the nuclear bomb blowing up on your science page, back in the day. Like this is going to be dire times for a lot of people in the industry that overinvested, overextended, way too much capacity, which is great, to be honest, for us. You know? I mean, I think obviously the industry will survive. There'll still be, brands that will grow, and, I think there'll be a shakeout for sure of other businesses that, are maybe not that well funded. That's probably, the industry always needs that every, it's cyclical. Every 5 to 10, 15 years, there's a overproduction of whiskey, and then it gets consumed, and you get back to what brands the consumer wants to drink.
Yeah. Well, the beauty is you can hold on to it for longer periods and still release it. With potentially higher value in the future if there is a sluggish period of sales.
Right. But the problem is ultimately it's got to be consumed in a bottle. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like somebody's got to drink it at some point, whether it's 10 years old or 15 years old or 20-year-old, somebody's got to drink it. And so I think it's super interesting. I mean, we've never seen that amount of investment and expansion in whiskey.
So when you're looking at the whiskey, the world of whiskey, and you talk about a shakeout, are you thinking like what segments of the industry do you think are going to be shaken out the most? Mm-hmm. And I do think shakeouts they're a healthy thing. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think we're going to see one here in the wine business.
Yeah, I mean,
we already are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's craft is unfortunately I think craft is great for consumers, but I think craft will have to mostly be regional because we're also seeing at the same time a ton of distributor consolidation, right? So like there's just less opportunities for brands to get to market, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, the big guys are going to be fine. They'll reconcile their inventories. I think craft guys are going to struggle. And then, I think there's some of the new producers that were hoping for this whiskey boom to continue, or oversee expansion to happen. Like we just haven't seen the rest of the world pick up American whiskey, right? It's still not happening for, we're having pockets of success in some countries, but I would say in general, I mean, China's not drinking American whiskey right now.
So Jack Daniel's, Jim Beam, those are still not. Are they the leaders in like the export market?
Sure, Jack has always been a huge leader.
Yeah.
Beam, sure, but I'm just saying I just don't see major international markets consuming all that whiskey that was produced.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's, and you're right. Like shakeouts are good. It's not, of course it's not ideal, but I think obviously you need to get to the business and the industry has to be healthy. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about the kind of penetration that you guys have in the marketplace and wanting to expand a little bit more into retail, into grocery chain, retail chain in particular. Are you targeting certain products that you have for that, or what price points is maybe more?
Yeah, we're still an expensive
specific
whiskey, but so like under $50 is we have 2 SKUs, piggyback, rye, and bourbon. Those are the ones that can get to grocer, get to retail, and so those are the ones that we're using for more of that expansion.
All right, and that's going well for you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
I like, because you mentioned I think a couple of times I have the word disruptive, which I really like, because then I think about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're still the most awarded rye whiskey out there. Yeah,
I mean, you have to have quality whiskey. So yes, we're still awarded, right, from that standpoint, and continue to be recognized. Yeah.
So I think it's great that you're still out there, like, and being disruptive, but then also staying true to what's in the bottle, the ingredients, and obviously that shows. But when it comes to taking swings or taking risks in this business, was there anything that you'd like to share that maybe you guys did try that wasn't successful, but then you just were able to move past or learn from to keep going? Because you've obviously been killing it. So
yeah, I mean, we one of the best examples was we were really early with RTDs. So we had launched a WhistlePig piggyback RTD. And we did it both in spirit and in FMB, like fermented malt base. And this was like maybe four years ago. So right at, high noons, crushing it. FMBs, like white, high, well, I guess like maybe, I don't know where Mark Antony's brand was at that point from a volume basis, or like Sam Adams products. They were still growing, right? They wasn't like, they weren't at the peak. And we launched this product and it just didn't resonate. The consumer didn't know what it was, didn't know, what WhistlePig or piggyback was. And maybe we were, maybe we were too early. Maybe it was the wrong packaging. Maybe it was the wrong liquid. Maybe the consumer just didn't know he wanted a whiskey and soda, right, at that point, right? Or it was a flavored highball at that point. So we unsuccessul launch, we even did it with Barstool, at that point, and it just fizzled. And so, kind of like took our learnings from that and then just kept on going.
And you were co-packing that with somebody else?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't try, you don't know.
Right.
I think that's it. And it could hit big.
Yeah.
I've had some successes that I thought were not going to be, and some failures that I thought were going to be successes. That's the fun of it.
Yeah. And I think you have to be willing to like put yourself out there or try it, right? Again, like you can't, we had some believers in it, some that thought it was a horrible idea, because you're also, we have a very premium product, right? And so like, $50 is still a hefty price for whiskey, right?
Yeah.
But so when we went into the RTDs, again, I still would have tried it. I mean, if we wouldn't have tried it, I would have regretted it, right? Like, can you imagine if you missed the entire RTD, right? Like White Claw, everything else, and never tried an RTD as a craft independent whiskey company? You'd be like, oh, what's wrong with you guys, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. Well, the world continues to evolve at a seems like a extremely fast pace as far as how people are consuming their alcohol.
Yeah.
And this idea that alcohol, I mean, I was went in and got a checkup at the doctor, and, he apologized to me. He said, I'm sorry to hear that you're in the industry you're in. There's no amount of alcohol that I would recommend to be safe for humans. And as we've seen that with like other agencies and this, bullshit report that was, written by, it was Canadians, right?
Canadian doctor. Yes,
fucking
you're right.
Canadians. God damn it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And now we're not seeing enough of the fact that was a bullshit report written by a very, very, subjective group of people. But nonetheless, the fact that a doctor is telling me this, seeing that people are believing that is the case, the younger people, the current 21 to 25-year-olds, and even the next generation that are coming up at the 18, and you want them to have an understanding of the culture that comes with these beverages, right?
Yeah.
But the ease of use seems to be so tempting that it's like, oh, I can just get this seltzer and I'm going to drink it and it's going to give me a little buzz and that's it, rather than understanding the details behind the products and trying to, like, we're trying to get our products to resonate with that younger generation. When I say younger, I'm saying, mid-20s or so. Yeah. But I don't know what point they really start to pay attention to the story and what the motivators are that get them into it. It's like if we're looking at our social media and saying that red wax dip was some sort of, ASMR-ish excitement for a 22-year-old, maybe they will then go out and try the wine and then maybe dig deeper and learn the story. So when it comes to outreach and trying to develop the next generation to understand the product, what goes into the product, the story behind the product, how are you guys evolving when it comes to it? Like what are your main marketing objectives beyond, say, a bartender or your packaging? How do you do that outreach?
That was a long question.
Sorry.
Wait, you mean
that was I think that was a story.
We're gonna take a break.
I think it was a story and a question and a story and a question. Yeah.
No.
You mean like with the Gen Zs coming into the market, like 21, 27, like that? Or
yeah, if you look at it like customer development, how does a brand like WhistlePig go about customer development? Beyond just having bartenders mixing drinks and putting the WhistlePig name on as the featured spirit in that cocktail, that sort of thing.
Well, if you know the answer, let me know. I mean that's the age old, right, marketing question.
You guys keep trying, right?
Well, yeah, we keep trying, and I think you said something earlier about non-alcs and drinking less and everything like that. Like I think we try to tell as many stories as possible and expose ourselves to as many different kind of consumers. So like every January we come out with a new non-alc product for 30 days, which is we take a real whiskey, spin off the alcohol, and then we'll actually add some type of flavor. So last year, which was great, it was called Dank and Dry, and we added cannabis terpenes to a non-alc product. So it actually tasted like you were drinking a very heavy THC infused product, which had no alcohol or THC. And so that was, again, so that kind of, all right, we're looking for the non-alc drinkers. Everybody stops drinking in January. And we did come out with a campaign that was super fun around that. So that's one example. I think from the marketing side, we'll look at different campaigns or, this is Dank and Dry.
So we have this up on screen.
Yeah. It was these
terpenes.
Was that a color? Okay, so barrel-aged maple syrup, old-fashioned cannabis terpenes. Wow.
And you know what? We sold it in weed shops in California. People loved it. It was it basically tasted like everything that's bad for you. Alcohol and cannabis with none of it in there. Right?
Well, hold on. You cannot say that it tastes like everything is bad for you. You know what's really bad for you is shit like Ozempic.
Oh, okay, fine. Yes, that's true. We actually have talked about that.
January?
We've talked about that.
No
we have talked about that. Yes.
Oh, that would kill.
Yeah. I'm going to start fucking with Ozempic. I mean, no, I'm not. I'm not going to start taking it. I'm going to start fucking with. I'm still so done with that shit.
Yeah. No, it is true. But those kind of culture hijacking, like Ozempic. Somebody should make fun of Ozempic in the spirits space, and it should be us. To be honest,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's
right.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with it still going strong, and now you have even. I just saw an ad for Hims, right?
Yeah.
And they're all about helping men with hair loss and libido, and now they're coming out with same ingredients as Ozempic.
Yeah.
And you can get it. We'll send it to you. They got the whole thing go online. Doctor checked you out, boom.
Yeah.
And now you got it, which I thought was
It's just
crazy.
that easy
Yes,
now?
it is
Oh,
that
yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you've seen some of the side effects, negative side effects, like long term now they're starting to look at.
Lizzo?
Jesus.
I mean, you asked the question.
Lizzo is one of the long-term side effects of Ozempic. Is that what?
Dude, you watch South Park? Come on, man. I don't.
No, it's
yes. But the thing is even with that knowledge, right?
Yeah, people are still signing up for it.
It seems to me that people are still getting into the market. Obviously,
totally.
Isn't it like 2% of GDP now is Ozempic?
Oh my God, no, I hadn't heard that.
It's a big number. Like it's like that is a big number. Is now just like that piece of business.
Yeah, it's God. I mean, yeah, and they're able to market the shit out of it, right? Yeah. And I mean that's I think that's a big part of it. But then we also live in a society right now where aesthetics are so important that I do think that's just going to drive it even higher.
Yeah. But so, I'll take your idea of coming out with something with Ozempic, and we'll run with that.
You can call like Aussie and something.
Yeah, we'll come up with something.
But I think that's so. I mean, it's so cool and intriguing, but you're coming out with just for January though, just for the dry January, right?
D2C, it just sold to consumers and it's gone. Yeah. And like this year there'll be another one, and different spin on it, but it's the same thing. So back to your point, like how do you get new consumers in the mix? Yeah, some are coming in because they're non-elks, right? Some are, a younger generation. We have to find, WhistlePig was consumed more by, older, wealthier individuals. So we got to find young consumers. We've kind of gone down that road. Our content's getting much better with like Super Troopers and some of those like historical, kind of funnier pieces of content. That
was hilarious. The Super Trooper thing?
Yeah.
Yo, Art, if you can pull that up, if somebody has not seen this ad.
Yeah, they came to the farm. They're great guys. And to be honest, right now we're having this like huge Vermont renaissance where like everybody that's cool is from Vermont, right? And so like there's this golfer called Keegan Bradley. He's captain of the Ryder Cup next year. There's Noah Kahn. He's this great singer that's from Vermont. We got Super Troopers. Like we're just trying to tap into what's cool now also in that environment. Yeah. And if we can get new consumers through that gate. So again, every year is slightly different. What's the quarterly campaign and how do we build something around it? But you're right. Unless we start talking to new consumers, and unless you graduate them up, we're going to miss.
This is the way it's supposed to be enjoyed. Enhance. Enhance.
Hey, that's my line.
Three parts WhistlePig piggyback 100% rye. 2 bar spoons WhistlePig barrel-aged maple syrup. 1 drop of bitters. Stir over ice, then dewy. In moderation, of course.
Sweet! Come here, Pig. Nothing like summer in Vermont, huh?
And so they came to the farm to write a little bit more of the script, which is great. Like, I mean, they're like 6 old friends, went to Colgate, did.
Oh, so it's like a legit crew.
They're all like bros.
They're bros.
Yeah.
They grew up, did stand-up comedy together, and then started doing these Super Troopers and all those other movies they did. I mean, they're older now, right? Of course, but again, like just great guys. And
are they Canadian?
No, they're all New England people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, all the great comedians did come from Canada, but that's important.
I was stoked to see him when they made the comeback on Netflix.
Yeah,
and they have their series going. But
what are you guys doing for this January as a kind of pushing against? Can you give us a little preview?
What are people in what's sober Cali? What are people doing in California these days? What's the hottest? Let's call it
alternative. I mean, for this year, what do you think the Cava? I think is probably
Well, I mean, Cava, Crampton.
Does that get you high?
It's part. Well, they use it a lot with the Cava, but it is also the same kind of.
You guys are in the ballpark. You're in the ballpark.
I don't know enough about it. Can you overconsume that? Is it like?
And also, in art, am I pronouncing that right? It's Crampton, right?
Kratom.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's Kratom.
Mm.
Yeah. And then, but what were you asking?
Can you overconsume Cava? Is there like an overdose?
Well,
I don't know,
Joe, I'm not a doctor.
We're that and some like low dose psychedelics.
Right. And honestly, I think that is a big trend that's impacting alcohol consumption, whether it's wine, whiskey, or beer.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of, THC, psilocybin, everybody's low dosing everything these days, right?
Yeah.
To be like on a serious level, there has been some articles and stuff and research done on kava, and there is been said to be some negative effects, I think, that can affect your liver and something like that. So there is some issues with when you're looking at overconsumption or long-term
use and damaging
use and stuff like that.
I mean, that's with everything, I guess, but if overindulgence, get to a point. We're going with like our tagline. We got a whole bunch of like material we're putting out there, but it's like, make January wet again.
Right.
You
got to go one way or the other, right? Like, I mean, you either got to say, all right, let's go deep on it, or you got to go, a different direction.
Yeah, we're not making a kava, infused Chardonnay or anything.
I don't know why not. You're missing out.
I just texted you, dude. No, you're saying no now.
What? No, I was so. Okay, number one, you can't mix THC with alcohol, right?
I'm not talking about THC.
What?
You can't. You're right. Yes.
Yeah. So, from a legal perspective, right?
Yeah.
What I'll say about THC, this drives me nuts. I don't know how you feel on this. Is that they just hit the ground running in the U.S. They didn't have any regulation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some regulation, but like advertising. I mean, you see billboards for dispensaries everywhere.
Yeah.
They didn't even start with the standard of like, we're going to put you into the same regulatory environment as tobacco.
No.
And I think that was really a bad move on the government's part for not, and I'm usually totally anti like government control or whatever else, but like the fact that they didn't just start a standard there, and I don't know that it's like, been a huge issue for alcohol, but I think.
Well, I think
it's an alternative.
We did a poor job of an industry of pushing back on cannabis. Like, we should have been asking the regulators to make sure that it was properly regulated and have the same constraints, right? And obviously there was way too many licenses for dispensaries set up. There's way too many, like everything was like overdone the wrong way. I mean, I don't know if the modeling was incorrect, but no, I think the alcohol industry, we did a piss poor job of making sure that they should have been equally as, toughly regulated as we were.
Yeah. I think the government, or more state governments, obviously not federal yet, but I think state governments were looking at it as a quick way to make some money.
Yeah, and the Hemp Act, which allowed them to use Delta 9, is crazy, right?
Man,
so like now you're able to buy products.
Cycling frog.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of them.
Have you tried those? Or you can't say it?
Can't say.
Scratch.
No, it's. I mean, it's real. It's the
numbers are crazy. Like, I think a mass is like cannabis mass is like $5 billion, right? That used to be either black market or was alcohol, right? In a sense, like I don't believe people are ever going to not look for ways to, have an effect, whether it's alcohol or
everybody's got a vice,
right? Everybody has a vice, but I don't know where $5 billion, if that's a real number, is that the government is quoting for cannabis in Massachusetts. That has to have impacted wine, spirits, and beer. There's no way else, right? Nobody gave people $5 billion more to use and still be buying the same amount of spirits, wine, and alcohol.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But it was interesting seeing Pabst jump in, Lagunitas jump in with just the
I think that was
THC alone beverages.
I thought that was a really good move for Pabst.
Yeah.
I think Lagunitas probably did a decent job, but I thought Pabst did a good. That was.
So you can buy in California THC and
at dispensaries.
Right.
They're not using like Delta 9 or whatever. They're So so yeah, you can buy it only at dispensaries, which I think does kind of delineate the confusion completely, but it's a standalone product with a brand name that people are already aware of. So like if we came out with a Bell Gloss non-alc, whatever with THC and it was sold there, I do think that not for that brand, but I think that could work in the wine space, probably with the whiskey space as well. Well, like you were saying,
we haven't seen that. I think that people are so, I guess, protective of their trademarks or their branding that we haven't seen that in the alcohol space. I know that I had heard about Pabst and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, what's crazy, right, is obviously the RTDs, like Sunny D coming out with like hard Sunny D, right? So like where my mind goes is there Sunny D THC? Like if you're willing to take your brand and put whatever vehicles in it, whether it's you know, alcohol or THC, where does it stop and start, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. Like in the spirit and wine space, we're relatively slow to take brands that are recognizable to consumers and then add, you know, THC or some other derivative to it.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think there would ever be a collaboration opportunity, say, with Sunny D, but then also with a whiskey? WhistlePig. I'm just throwing it out there.
You know what? One of our non-elks we did. We matched up with an orange company out of California for an orange old-fashioned non-elk with Sunkist, and so Sunkist was willing to play ball with a non-elk. So it's interesting what, you know, when you go down the collab or partnerships, who will play ball. Yeah. But yeah, we actually put Sunkist logo on a non-elk dry January orange old fashioned, which is cool.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, but it is interesting that whole, where does it stop and start with brands, whether you're you know, doing THC or some other spirit, right? And where does the consumer get confused?
Yeah. I think that's the big question.
Yeah.
And it seems like it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it's
Wow, man.
Well, great. Well, I know I want to talk about, so you guys have an initiative going forward as far as some of your cause marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, cause marketing, I think for us is like every January when we do the non-elk, we usually give all the proceeds to bartenders because they're the ones that are being impacted. So January for us is generally, you know, bartender heavy. From time to time, depending on, you know, what's happening, you know, Farm Aid's been, we've done some stuff with them, done some barrel auctions, you know, as a farmer, right? It makes sense. So, you know, again, I think if you're farming, growing grain, you're going to look at causes that make sense. But I think we haven't really picked a specific cause that we come back to each year other than the bartenders, right? It's more like what's happening inside of our own ethos and, you know, and then we kind of go from there and like pick an appropriate partner.
I do have to ask, because we didn't touch it, but with all the, you know, creative stuff that you were doing, and like we've talked about before, being disruptive, causing ruckus, you got these pigs running around, stuff like that. Do you have any crazy stories? Did pigs ever get loose? Did anyone just ever jump on a pig, try to steal one? I don't know. Like,
well, we used to also have Mangalitsa pigs on the farm. So Mangalitsa is kind of like the Kobe beef of pigs. They're like Hungarian, right? So they're like super fatty. So like they're a breed that's really like whenever you get Kobe
hardy
beef,
for the cold and mountains.
Yeah, and so like super fatty. And
can you pull up Mangalitsa?
Yeah, it's
Mangalitsa.
Yeah, and so we used to actually breed them on the farm and then send them away to like pig dinners in like Boston, New York. We were losing our ass because by the time you grow a pig, butcher it, and send it to, you know, FedEx it to Boston, you know, you're way too much money. So this venture didn't go that well. But like back to like these crazy collabs we're always trying to pull off.
Yeah.
When they get a picture of these Mangalitsa pigs up, you know, they're like,
whoa, dude, they're like kind of hairy.
They're hairy, right?
Yeah.
And so I met the CEO of Allbirds through some connection, right?
What is Allbirds?
Allbirds is like that shoe that's
made
out of wool.
Allbirds,
made out of wool. And so I sent a note to the CEO and said, hey, let's do a shoe collab. I got all these pigs on the farm and we sheared them and we got all this wool, pig wool. Of course, we didn't do this, but I was like, if he took the bait, then we're going to have to figure out how to take this hair, which is not really like nice. It's like very thin and like prickly. And so all of a sudden I got this is a big shoe company out of New Zealand. And he's like asking me about tensile strength on the wool to make it into the shoes. I'm like, oh boy, now I'm really deep here. Like, how do I get out of this collab? But like, I mean, you got to be always pitching is the way to think about it.
So you can actually make wool out of that.
No, you can't.
Okay, I was going to say, I mean,
there's no way you can make wool out of it.
I raised pigs growing up. I've got kids that are in 4-H and
there's no way in hell. But I'm just saying, like, you're always, when you have pigs on the farm, you're figuring out like these things are costing us money. You got to do something with them. So could I make, Allbirds shoes? Well, it didn't turn out, but you're always trying to figure something out. But,
yeah, we were dealing with like Yorks, Durocs,
those are more
Hampshires.
Traditional.
This thing, I didn't come across something like this.
Yeah.
I do remember that you did have like a sow on at the winery for a long time. It was like 1,000. Was it
No, it
1,000
was like
pounds?
600 pounds.
Okay,
She got
I mean, I was a
6.
little kid then. I mean, we were riding it.
Yeah, that was big. That was
She
a
was
big
600
pig.
pounds.
We had one pig this year that was a I can't remember the breed. It's a Chinese breed, like little floppy ears in the front.
Oh,
like
yeah.
really really stout. She turned out really good though. Like there were quite a few that turned out good. We only had one that didn't make.
What does it mean? Turned out good.
Made it to market.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
I know. Well, he supports 4-H every year because we grew up doing that.
Yeah. So this is a different, like this place is a different world compared to like if you're selling pigs in 4-H,
Yeah.
in, like Ohio, you know,
Right.
like it's there's everybody, you know, vineyard management companies, wineries, everybody wants their name up on the you know big screen and
Right.
and on the top bidders of last year
Okay.
award, all that, and so I mean kids are getting. I mean, like $5,000 for like, I mean, that seems like starting level. Kids are getting 15, 20 grand for a pig.
Oh my God,
It's wild.
crazy.
Oh yeah, it's jumped up crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there like, I mean, I thought it was crazy because in my time, a long time ago, I broke like a record of selling. I did pigs and I transitioned to steers, and steers were always making more money than pigs.
Yeah.
So to sell a steer for $10 a pound, it was like right before I was going to college. It was like a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. But now I'm seeing like the pigs can make more money, I think, than steers sometimes, right? Because they're going for like over $50 a pound.
Yeah, you're gonna net more.
And you're looking at now they
cost
raised the
per
weight,
pig
right?
is like
$290.
1,500 to 2,000 as far as like raising one, all in.
Well, if you
And
guys
then-
want to come out to the farm and raise some more pigs, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Actually, we're looking for a new breeder this coming. We're looking for a new breeder this coming spring. So if you got any piglets, let me know.
Yeah, but yeah, they all turned out good.
Yeah, it turned out good.
Yeah, no, it's wild stuff. It's fun though. But yeah, we just had our first 4-H meeting last night. Actually.
Oh yeah, are you still the president?
Yeah.
So you got enough time?
Yeah.
No, not the president. No, the president is that was Bishop. I'm the parent leader, is what they call it. Yeah.
Wait, so your son basically is your boss of 4-H.
I just have the oversight. I get to go to all the shitty meetings,
Okay.
and then he gets to say the pledge and tell people what to do. Well, I look forward to getting out there to Vermont and and visiting you, and maybe there's a collaboration in the works at some point in the coming years.
Great.
We love what you guys are doing. Very much appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
thanks
was
for
great
having me.
you on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, until
Maybe
next
we can
time.
start drinking
Yeah.
all these.
We
I
should-
like how Joe, like, this was great though, is that he pulls out these bottles, but you can tell he's always been a fan.
Yeah, that's great.
There's something missing out of all of these, so that's great.
All right. Well, here's the problem. You
Hey, go-
get down to this level,
You
and
don't
I'm
wanna
probably
drink.
not going to find this bottle. So, like, I, it's like this thing. Like, it's nostalgic. I just want to
Yeah.
keep this level of whiskey in this bottle so that I can like smell it and maybe taste it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like, but when I say taste it, it's like a dropper. But that's actually one of the best
A
ways
drop-
to taste.
is.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Just literally, I'll sometimes just grab a straw, like plug the top, and just get like a quarter inch in there and put it on the middle of your tongue.
Oh.
And it
Your doctor will like that too.
the what?
Yeah.
Oh, the doctor. Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
We're not taking those doctor orders.
My doctor, man. I want a new one now.
If you're listening.
Oh no, he knows it. He already knows
Oh, he
it. Yeah, he
already
knows
knows
it.
it.
I let him know it.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. Well, Jeff, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Cheers.
it.
All right, cheers.
See ya.
Peace.